Welcome to another edition of the No State Project. I'm Mark Stevens, and not a subject that I'm happy to talk about. But hey, 5 Memphis police officers fired before the video comes out. And I know there was a lot of speculation. It's here's one of the articles about it. 5 Memphis ex-police are charged with murder and jailed over the death of Tyre Nichols. And so I know the speculation wasn't there. There are the alleged murderers there. And so the big thing was, my gosh. So there's a lot of posts that this happened that I read, and it's just the Memphis police and other police departments are, they're bracing for protests and public unrest because this video is so horrific. And so you kind of think, well, wow, it's that bad. They've actually charged them with murder before they were fired, and they were charged with murder, and the video wasn't even released yet. So wow, that's got to be a bad video. But I think it's more than that. And if you look, there's something very different about this group of official state police killers, okay? Because they're not all white. They're all black, like the victim, Tyre Nichols. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. It's a pretty good reason why they didn't get to go home and talk to the union rep, and they didn't have to come in for questioning right away. No, they were arrested and charged in record time. I guess I'm speculating that's record time. It seems to be that way. So, you look in the George Floyd case, that was on video also, very clear HD video. Those guys weren't arrested and fired right away. These alleged murdering state actors were. Wow. So I'm going to go on a limb and say that because they're not white, that's probably why they were arrested so fast. I mean, that's the nature of the system, But I believe here a big issue is it's the power differential. That this is why this is it's a power differential. So it's the violent, coercive nature of government in the first place to then give violent killers like this a gun and impunity. Because how rare is it for these state killers to be held accountable to any degree? And the viciousness and how cavalier they had body cams on. Now, that wasn't the clearest one. It was actually the public one on a public poll that is got the clearer video. But you've got 5 individuals who are allegedly murdered this man on video. They had body cams. So you have to be thinking, in the cavalier attitude that they had when they were killing this man and beating him to death, was how many times have they done this and got away with it already, that they were so brazen? How many times? Are they going to be like Larry Krasner and start looking into the background of all these police officers, and then the EMT didn't do anything to help him right away? They should be in prison too. Hopefully they're going to get everybody. This is absolutely horrific. We see here, last year was the deadliest year on record for police violence in the United States. Gee, you think? And now we're not even out of January yet. We're not even out of January. And we have one of the worst killing on record. Not even, we didn't even make it a full month. And this doesn't even include the mass shootings. Last year was the deadliest year on record for police violence in the U.S. At least 1,176 people were killed by law enforcement. That's 36 more people than in 2001. Of people killed by law enforcement last year, 287 were black. That's 24% of the total number of police killings. Even though the U.S. Census records show that black Americans, African Americans, are only 13% of the population. Police shooting incidents accounted for 96% of the killings. 96%. The majority of these killings began with a response to a mental health call or routine traffic stop, a nonviolent offense or disturbance, or a situation where there was no crime alleged. As long as you give violent individuals guns and tasers together with immunity, it's more appropriate to say impunity, because they know they're going to get away with it. Most of the time, you do not beat a man to death on camera so nonchalantly unless you know full well you're going to get away with it. So it's just going to keep happening. It's the violent nature of government or the state. They are state actors. They are going out representing the state. And they have what's called qualified immunity, which is the legal phrase for it. And after the Civil War, whatever our opinions are of government, but after the Civil War, they pass some civil rights acts, and you have Section 1983, Title 42, Section 1983, which is, so anybody under color of law violates your rights, all right? So it's specifically passed for government employees. You can't, you have to be acting pursuant to a government authority for Section 1983 to have any, all right? This is for state actors. This is for government. So, in the United States, qualified immunity is a principle that grants government officials performing discretionary functions immunity from civil suits unless the plaintiff shows the official violated clearly established statutory constitutional rights of which a reasonable person would have known. Qualified immunity only applies to government officials in civil litigation and does not protect the government itself from suits arising from officials' actions. So, 100 years after that, what the Supreme Court, which has always been shown to protect the government most of the time, and especially the rich, because that government is a tool of the rich, always has been, always will be, which is why the rich do not go to prison. They're useful idiots like these five. Yeah, they go to prison. Occasionally. Generally, no. But the rich that they're working for, no. So the Supreme Court in 1967 first introduced qualified immunity because there was always the sovereign immunity. But with the Civil Rights Act, then after the Civil War, that gave people the legal right to file the civil right and constitutional right deprivation lawsuits against state actors. Supreme Court first introduced the qualified immunity doctrine in Pearson v. Ray in 1967, a case litigated during the height of the civil rights movement. It is stated to have been originally introduced with the rationale of protecting law enforcement officials from frivolous lawsuits and financial liability in cases where they acted in good faith in unclear legal situations. So the Supreme Court first justified the need for qualified immunity from civil rights violation lawsuits for law enforcement officers, arguing that a policeman's lot is not so unhappy that he must choose between being charged with dereliction of duty if he does not arrest when he had probable cause and being punished with damages if he does. Oh, the poor police officer. So, of course, as the years go on, they get more and more of this qualified immunity, making it much, much more difficult now to sue. All thanks to the Supreme Court. They just created it. It's like sovereign immunity in the United States. It was supposed to be a whole break from England and whatnot. There's nothing legally in the law, the Constitution about sovereign immunity. Oh, yeah, well, we'll just create it. Qualified immunity, just create it. Always extend whatever they can do to protect you got to protect. They got to protect their useful idiots, or no one's going to want to be a useful idiot anymore. So this is just absolutely horrific. It just keeps getting. Apparently, the cops are killing more and more of us every single year. And if this is any indication, they are going to break last year's record this year. And apparently they're on track to actually, to do that already. I just want to end on the horrific thought of just how much damage these 5 alleged murderers have already done. And just these 5. They're only part of a particular task force. They're only part of it. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say that this is not an isolated incident. It can't be. Any criminologist would, given the level of the violence here, not their first time. Not the first time. And this is representative of probably every single police department. When you have such a power structure, when you have such a power differential, and you have taken responsibility away, and you actively help them you actively help cover up their crimes and not hold them accountable to the people, the little people like us. And you don't do anything to hold them accountable. And this is what's going to keep happening. This is going to happen over and over and over and over again. And just like it said, these were from where there was no crime alleged. And remember that they refused to go in Uvalde, Texas. There was an active shooter. And we know that there was the one also in Florida a number of years ago. Didn't go in there. Cops with guns not going after an active shooter. Yet, nonviolent traffic offenses, a situation where there was no crime alleged, they're more than willing and able to use blinding, lethal violence. It's shocking. It's almost incomprehensible to think about what these men and those like them in the police departments and the prosecutors who cover it up, the politicians who cover it. It's almost inconceivable the amount of violence that they are committing and have committed and will continue to commit against us. But that's the nature of the beast. So that's all I'm going to do with this particular video. This kind of stuff makes my blood boil. And because there's so many people connected with this that are going to get away with it. Yeah, they should absolutely spend the rest of their lives in prison. They should actually get the death penalty. They didn't do this alone. And it's not their first time. There are people that are covering this up. They got away with this long because the prosecutors and the politicians were covering up for them. So I would like to see that we don't have another record-breaking year of people, regular people like me and you, not being killed, but that remains to be seen. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so in the description below, and that would be appreciated. Again, my name is Mark Stevens, No Stay Project. Thanks for watching.